Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video I will present and introduce what are the main requirements when traveling to East Africa. This video is part of a series called Away and Abroad, specifically how I traveled in East Africa for 1 month. So if you haven't watched the other video, you can jump. I will put them in a playlist. So yeah. Today's we will talk about all of the administratives and other requirements that you will have when you travel there. First requirement, there is a high chance that you will have to go for that, is the visa. There is different type of visa. There is some visa that you need to request in advance, and then even without those requests, there is two types. There is one type is a traditional visa where you would have to put document all together on your trip, the reason, how long you're planning to stay, and that you will send that to the embassy of the country that you're planning to travel to. So once this is done, you will have to wait for them to deliver the visa. Sometimes they would have to bring your passport or send it, and they would have the visa stamped, or like usually it's like a big sticker like that they would stick on your passport. Another option is the e-visa, and this is what I used in Uganda and also in Kenya. Basically, it's a procedure that you do online on the official government website, and they delivered a document. I might put an example where you have your name and all your details and a QR code. Basically, when you arrive at the immigration, you would just give them your passport, you will give them that document, and they would do the procedure for you. Visa range between $50 to 100 euros. It was 100 euros for Burundi, it was $50 for Kenya, and $50 for Uganda for e-visa. Would now touch on like Burundi, which they did not have an e-visa per se. You have to do in Burundi a visa in advance at the consulate, but at the time that I'm speaking, it is also possible to do it on arrival. You have to make sure that this is possible, because from what I read, it's not possible to do a visa on arrival in Kenya, but that is possible in Burundi. But a lot of people don't know about it. So when I was traveling from South Africa to Burundi via Rwanda, the woman asked me if I have a visa for Burundi because I need one. And I told her that I don't have, and I don't have an e-visa procedure. And then she was really concerned. So she had to actually ask her hierarchy and other people to make sure that she can allow me to go there without a visa. A lot of people, they don't know that it is possible to have a visa on arrival in Burundi. It's something that is very new. So I would recommend, if you're traveling to a country where not a lot of people knows that it's possible to have a visa on arrival, first check on the Facebook group of the recent traveler and which nationality they are. Maybe there is a restriction on nationality. Make sure that is something that you can trust. Second, sometimes they would have a public release. That was the case for Burundi. So I downloaded the public official release of visa on arrival from the government. In case there were an issue, then they would be able to see that, okay, the government allows this. So, you know, they can let me go. So that is more under the visa procedures. And what is mainly the vaccine requirement? I will show you what it looks like, the yellow vaccine, at least for France. So this is what it looks like. Basically what they will have to do is that you would have to go, like, I think most of the time would be the hospital. I could not do it with my GP. It has to be like a specific department in the hospital or in a specific center or lab. And then you would tell them that you're traveling to a place that require yellow fever vaccine, and they will know what to do with it. You would first have an appointment with the GP, with the doctor there. Also review your other certificate, your other vaccines. So I recommend that you bring your vaccination notebook, whatever you have in your country that state all, whatever you have in your country that state all of the vaccine that you had. I personally took more vaccines, tetanus, like I took multiple one, even because yeah, I'm just afraid of getting sick when I'm traveling. Important to know that those vaccine, it's best to have it 2 weeks before you're traveling for the yellow vaccine. So think about it as well, like don't do it 2 days before you're traveling, because it can get a little bit tricky. Side note, I have a friend, she's from Burundi, and then she traveled to Tanzania, but then she transit to Nairobi to see me, and then she didn't have the yellow vaccine. They did it at the airport, and then she were allowed to get out, and then allowed also in Tanzania. So apparently it is possible as well to do it on the spot. I don't really know how that works for international flights. I know that within the East African community that is possible. I don't recommend trying it this way, but maybe there is a possibility if your flight is tomorrow and you're watching that video and you don't have a yellow fever vaccine. Who knows? But most of the time they will check beforehand. So yeah, that's not, something that you can get away with, I would say. Also, side note is that you would have to pay for the yellow vaccine. It's not something that the Social Security usually reimburse, at least in France, and I think in most of the countries. It's a choice to take that vaccine, especially if you're traveling. That means that, yeah, you have the means to travel, so you're gonna pay the vaccines. So there also are costs that you have to take into consideration when you're doing your budget. Still some, extra fees as well for the visa. Now that we're talked about the yellow vaccine, we can talk about the malaria, or in French is paludisme. There is no vaccine, so you need to get pills. Those are like pills that you take daily, usually when you're eating something. Some people that lived for a longer time in a country that has malaria took a weekly pill. I don't know how that works, but I took a daily pill where you have to take it maybe 1 day or two before your trip, and you have after your trip you have to take it, I think, for 1 or 2 weeks once you left the country, just to make sure. When you take those pills, maybe not specifically those ones, but there is side effect. Side effect can range from belly pain to rashes on the body. So they also recommend using sun protection, sunscreen, because you can have a more sensitive skin while taking this pill. I also recommend use anti-mosquito spray. I had one spray, was doing both UV and mosquito, so I was always putting that one because I was like double protection. But I still recommend it to put sunscreen, even be under the mosquito protection, just to be extra secure. Thanks God I didn't have any issues, but that's something to keep in mind when you're doing this. Also, I don't think it's reimbursed as well, those pills. So yeah, extra cost that you have to take into consideration. Some people don't take the pills, but yeah, it's up to you. Honestly, this is not mandatory. Like if we compare, like yellow vaccine is mandatory, the pills for malaria not. You can, I would say it's up to you to decide what is worth it or not. And there is also still till this day asking for COVID vaccine or COVID certificate, recovery certificate. So I really recommend when you're traveling to have all of your documents scanned and having them available on a drive offline, or directly on your phone, laptop, in any other devices that you can have. You can even print them, I would say. But it's important to have all of the document ready when you're doing the immigration, because they can ask you for anything. I would say always try to have some change as well, in case they ask you like to pay something extra. That can happen. So it's good to also be ready for that. that was the video about what are the administration, the paperwork, or the vaccines that are required in this region. In the next episode, and probably the last episode of the series, How Did I Travel for 1 month in East Africa and how did I plan it, I would give some safety tips for solo female traveler traveling for the first time in that region. I've met other solo female traveler when I traveled in Uganda. It was really nice to share everything. So any woman has different experience, but that's my experience, and that are the tips that I would be able to give you. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you also traveled to a place that required the yellow fever vaccine, please let us know. Once you have that vaccine, basically you're set. You can travel to other places that has this. So it's really good, and it's one-time thing, and then you have it, and yeah, you can travel more. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video, and then I will see you in the next video. Bye.